I am like,
So this is our.
yeah, I'm okay. I'm just like out of sorts for some reason. Yeah, I'm fine.
I was glad he gave us that picture. I've seen him. You seen him before?
Oh,
Seen that guy before.
put this away. Good evening. The time is now 7:02, and I would like to call the Beloit City Council meeting to order at this time. First order of business is roll call.
All councilors are present.
Second order, pledge of allegiance. May we all stand, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Third item of business, a special order of the day and announcements. Item 3A, please.
A proclamation declaring October 7th through the 13th, 2018 as National Fire Prevention Week.
Vice President Duncan.
Thank you for coming forward, Chief Lickett, and joining me at the podium. Today, we would like to present you with an official proclamation from the City of Beloit, and it states, whereas the City of Beloit is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting the City of Beloit, and fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are where people are at greatest risk from fire. And whereas home fires killed 2,735 people in the United States in 2016, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to 352,000 home fires. And whereas the majority of United States fire deaths, 4 out of 5, occur at home each year, and the fire death rate per 1,000 home fires reported to United States fire departments was 10% higher in 2016 than in 1980. And whereas Beloit's residents should identify places in their home where fires can start and eliminate those hazards, and whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fire in half, and whereas Beloit's residents should install smoke alarms in every sleeping room, outside each separate sleeping area, and on every level of the home, and should listen for the sound of the smoke alarm, and when it sounds, respond by going outside immediately to the designated meeting place. And whereas Beloit's residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas Beloit's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas Beloit's residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take action to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2018 Fire Prevention Week theme, Look, Listen, Learn. Be aware, fire can happen anywhere, effectively serves to remind us that we need to take personal steps to increase our safety from fire. Now, therefore, the City Council President of the City of Beloit and our City Council do hereby proclaim October 7th through the 13th of 2018 as Fire Prevention Week. Throughout the city, urges all the people of Beloit to be aware of their surroundings, look for available ways out in the event of a fire or other emergency, respond when the smoke alarm sounds by exiting the building immediately, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of Beloit's fire and emergency services during Fire Prevention Week 2018, presented this first day of October 2018. And here you are, Chief. And we'd like for you to share a few words with us, if you would.
Thank you very much for this proclamation. It's a testament to the city's commitment to the fire service and providing fire prevention activities, fire suppression activities, in emergency medical services, the all hazards approach that we have in the fire department for dealing with the fire problem in our community. Every year we get a chance to go into the schools. And this year's theme, Look, Listen, and Learn. The idea is that we want to take all of the things that we've learned in our lives regarding fire prevention and apply them in one concept. So look for places where fire can start in your home. You're going to look for those hazards. You're going to want to eliminate those hazards. Make sure, even as you're looking through your home, making sure that all the exit pathways are clear so that if you needed to crawl out in blinding smoke and heat, you would still be able to find your way out and not get lost. Practice doing that blindfolded. I know it might be a fun family event to try for your exit drills in the home to safely crawl out of your home, just so you understand how it feels and what things feel like as you're crawling out. Listen, the smoke detector, all right? Making sure you have working smoke detectors, make sure the batteries are changed on a regular basis. If you have a smoke detector that is an alarm system in your home, that the battery backups are regularly changed, those are all good things. Test your smoke detector once a month. Change your smoke detector every 10 years. Many people have smoke detectors that have been there since the late 80s and are probably due to be replaced. So they're good for about 10 years. They lose their effectiveness after that point. And then learn 2 ways out of every room. Now, that's everywhere you go. Fire can strike anywhere, so it's really important to make sure that you know 2 ways out of the council chambers, 2 ways out of a meeting room here at City Hall, out of your hotel room. All right, a lot of people don't think about this one, but count the doors in your hotel from to the exit. If you go left out the door, is it 3 doors to the exit? If I go right out the door, it's 10 doors to the exit. Do that everywhere you go. Look for those exit pathways when you're in a clothing store or visiting the grocery store. You might have to look high for those signs. Other things you can do too, learn how to use a fire extinguisher. Learn what to do to treat a burn. Remember that young children might be in your home, and turn those pot handles in so that kids aren't pulling those pot handles down and burning themselves with scalding fluid from their stove. Teach. Pass on the knowledge. Make sure that all the children in your home have the opportunity, in your life, have the opportunity to learn these critical things, what to do in the event of a fire. The number for 911, what to tell the dispatcher when you call 911. All right? What's your problem? Where do you live? Is there anybody hurt? And make sure everybody gets out. All right? Those are the things that they're going to want to know, and you got to stay on the line. Don't hang up on the dispatcher. Stay there until they tell you to hang up. All right? Thank you very much again for this support and with the proclamation, and a couple of announcements. One will be in the school system next week for Fire Prevention Week. On the 11th, from 4 to 8, we have our annual Pizza Hut fundraiser. We'd love to have you there. Join us. The firefighters, the fire explorers will be serving pizza that night. Firefighters from all over the county will have apparatus display there. There'll be a fire pole. We will have a search trailer from Black Hawk Technical College there that kids can crawl through and see how that works. And then also during Fire Prevention Week, we have our third career camp for Hendricks Career Tech. It will be Saturday the 13th, and it's a special rescue camp. So a lot of things going on this week, and we appreciate the community support.
Item 3B, please.
A proclamation declaring September 15th, 2018 to October 15th, 2018 as Hispanic Heritage Month.
Vice President Duncan.
Can I have Cecilia Ramirez to come forward, please? Where are you, Cecilia? Cindy, did you want to join up? I'm going to have you stand up when I'm done, though. We'll do that. Okay. On behalf of the City of Beloit, we would like to present you with an official proclamation, and it reads, whereas Hispanic Heritage Month is an opportunity to recognize the contributions of Hispanic Americans and to celebrate Hispanic heritage and culture. And whereas the observation began in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Lyndon B. Johnson, but was enacted into federal law on August 17, 1988, calling upon public officials, educators, librarians, and all the people of the United States to observe this time with ceremonies, activities, and programs. And whereas the observance celebrates the culture and traditions of people whose ancestry can be traced to Spain, Mexico, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean islands. And whereas the 2016 U.S. Census estimates that nearly 19% of Beloit's population are Hispanic and Latino residents, and whereas these Hispanic and Latino residents play a unique and vital role in our economy and workforce, as well as our education and faith communities. Now, therefore, the President of the Beloit City Council and our City Council proclaims September 15th of 2018 to October 15th of 2018 as Hispanic Heritage Month in the City of Beloit, and encourages the support and participation of all residents to observe this month with appropriate ceremonies, activities, and programs presented this first day of October 2018. Congratulations. Now, Cecilia, you may want to share a few words with us.
Thank you. Well, it's going to be a few words. You know that I don't like to talk. But it is an honor, honestly, to get this award and this proclamation. Thank you so much. And, you know, as a Latino Service Providers Coordinator, it's been an honor to be able to serve in the community and to somehow be the word, you know, for the community to be present and to participate. And this is nice. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Cecilia. Cindy, if you all could just stand up and just, well, you got to be recognized, because what you give to our community is just, I can't even tell you. I just want to say that we appreciate all that you do, and for also spreading, you know, the word about this month. So thank you very much. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4, public hearings, 4A, please.
Consideration of Resolution 2018-163, approving a conditional use permit to allow a drive-in use in a C2 neighborhood commercial district for the property located at 2648 Prairie Avenue.
Ms. Christensen.
So this building, it was most recently used as Fiesta Cancun. It is 3,200 square feet and was constructed in 1995. The proposal is for a drive-in use, which requires a conditional use permit in the C2 zoning district. There is an existing conditional use permit to allow indoor alcohol sales that was previously approved in 2009. The conditional use from 2009 did prohibit the use of the drive-through lane and window. The approval of this conditional use as presented would supersede this condition from the 2009 resolution. This site does meet the minimum stacking spaces and the minimum parking spaces for the use that's being proposed. And the plan basically would be that you would pull in off of Prairie Avenue, go around the building, and it would be on the south, the window would be on the south side. Plan Commission reviewed this item on September 5th and then laid it over to the 19th and ultimately voted 3-2 to recommend approval of the conditional use permit to allow a drive-in use, subject to the 2 conditions recommended by planning staff, and an additional condition added by the Plan Commission would prohibit the sales of alcohol in the drive-through lane. They did not, at the time, present any evidence for that condition, but they did vote for approval 3-2.
Thank you. This is a public hearing on item 4A this evening. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing on item 4A. This evening, anyone wishing to speak on item 4A, please step forward, state your name and address for the record at this time. Anyone wishing to speak on item 4A this evening?
Mark Miller, 2675 Iva Court. I'm the manager of Badger Spirits at 2327 Prairie Avenue. I'm all for business opening up in Beloit. And I want to thank the council 10 years ago to give us a license. We do a lot for the city. Unfortunately, Alice Blue is not here, the owner. She's on a business trip, so she couldn't make it. Alice does a lot of giving to the city, anonymous. She doesn't like her name up there. I think we do a great, we help out the community quite a bit. On the liquor license that they want on Prairie Avenue, I just want to mention Stop and Go on Inman Parkway, Casey's on Show Pier. The new Casey's that is just opening up, they're going to have a liquor and beer license. Shopco sells alcohol. Of course, Badger Spirits, Tobacco Shack, Happy House, the Mobile on Show Pier, Citgo on Show Pier, the Citgo on Cranston and Prairie, CVS, Walgreens, Piggly Wiggly. That's 13 liquor license within a mile radius. I don't know if the city, do we really need another liquor license in this area? I'm not saying no liquor license in Beloit, but this is pretty saturated. I think everybody that has a liquor license, they do their best of keeping everything professional. I just don't know, when they say a convenience store and a liquor store, what is the percentage of convenient products to alcohol? You know, you can have whatever, but I would like to know, what's the percentage of it? But that's all I have to say, and I want to thank you much.
Okay, thank you. And before I call the second call for public hearing, I've asked the city manager to make a statement at this time.
I just want to clarify that the public hearing this evening is for the drive-through use only. There is a referral on item 6E to go to the Alcohol Commission for the liquor portion of the request to be considered. But this evening, the only item for approval under the public hearing is the drive-through use in and of itself. just wanted to point out that bit of clarification is a little confusing. There are two separate approval processes that are required. The conditional use, as it stands, is for the drive-through, and then the alcohol will be referred later this evening and go to the Alcohol Commission. We can get those dates for you.
Yeah, that was going to be my next suggestion. Now, when we get to that item, City Manager Luther, if we could, if it moves forward in a referral process, if we could get the date of the next meeting so the gentleman can know to be there as well. And another speaker, please step forward and state your name for the record.
Thank you. Fran Frusen, 1726 Garfield, Beloit, Wisconsin. I'm happy to see that the ordinance reading has been changed so that we do eliminate the drive-through for liquor use. But I did have some prepared remarks, and I'll just shorten those, and if you don't mind, I'll just want to mention them. So the first question I would ask, again, as our previous speaker said, do we really need another alcohol outlet for the city of Beloit? And especially in the frame of a pass-through alcohol sales. And we think quite firmly that we don't need another one. The city council has been generous, and we now have abundant alcohol outlets for the city of Beloit. Also, the close proximity of that outlet to the intermediate school Aldrich does not serve the best interest of our youth. Now, even with ID cards going to be used for sales of liquor, trying to regulate underage drinking through the window of a car is going to have additional challenges if we try to do that. We know that the City Commission and the City Council has previously rejected, as you have now again, the request to review the license for pass-through sales of alcohol, and I didn't know in that reading of the ordinance, does that include tobacco hall sales? Because at one time they were also looking for tobacco sales, I thought. Well,
the application is not, it's just for the drive-through use, so the alcohol and tobacco is not a part of the
okay,
agenda.
tobacco, that's.
But they're, yeah, I think they've applied for a tobacco license.
Yep. Okay. Well, we know again, the city commission and the city council has, through due diligence, have rejected that license in that form. So anyway, when you take all these negatives together and ask the question, is a pass-through alcohol and tobacco sales good for the city of Beloit? We have to say, we think not. So we say yes to the convenience store sales, but no to the sale of alcohol and tobacco and pass-through. So now we think it's time to say case closed in regarding those sales of pass-through liquor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager Luther.
Yes, Mr. Frusen, I would also let you know that the Alcohol Beverage Commission meeting will be held on October 9th at 4 p.m. here. And so that is when the request for the alcohol and tobacco, well, not tobacco, just the alcohol. I apologize, I'm uncertain how the tobacco is handled. But in any case, the alcohol request for the interior only will be addressed at that particular meeting.
So would it be open to speakers to speak?
Pardon? That's my understanding.
There's the alcohol meeting is a public meeting. It's at 4 o'clock next Tuesday, and there is a public comment section.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that information.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Second call for item 4A this evening. Anyone wishing to speak on item 4A, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Yes.
Nicholas Lerma, 5008 Walnut Grove Drive. I just want to touch base real quick. We've already touched base before. We're only looking for the window usage for food, tobacco, lottery tickets, pop. We do plan on selling food there eventually, but we need to get going on the bigger stuff first, so we can start bringing some money in and do some other stuff there. No alcohol sales through the window. We touched bases on that last week, so I just want to let everybody know that's, that part is already been out there, that, yeah, we're not looking to get the liquor sales approved to that. It's just the food and anything else other than the alcohol. So,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Third and final call. Anyone wishing to speak on item 4A this evening, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, I would close the public hearing at this time and entertain a motion from council. Is there such a motion?
First, I'd like to make clear that I'm making a motion on the conditional use permit as it relates to the drive-through window. And I would make a motion that we approve the resolution as brought forth with removal of condition number 3 in that resolution, so that we will allow the proper policy procedure to proceed with that alcohol permitting through the ABLEC and the secondary licensing on that, and remove it from the conditional use permit, because the conditional use permit should only apply to the actual use of the property as a convenience store location. This should be irrespective of the contents. So, okay, that's my motion.
If I could just clarify then for the council, there's a motion to approve the resolution with number 3 on the resolution being stricken. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So everyone understands the motion. Is there a second to such motion? There's a motion by Preschel. There's a second by Vice President Duncan. Is there any questions or comments on that motion? Councilor Jacobson.
Could we just clarify for the public what we're striking from the resolution, please?
What we're striking from the record, from the resolution, is alcohol is prohibited from being sold through the drive-through window. That's correct. So there's a motion and a second to approve the resolution striking condition number 3, which is alcohol is prohibited from being sold through the drive-through window. Any further questions or comments? Councilor Forback.
Yes, because this doesn't mean that alcohol is going to be allowed sold through the drive-in. These are just technical, legal issues as far as what's included in that. So it is, when we vote this in, which I think we're going to, that's going to mean that we're okaying the drive-through, but not selling liquor.
See, Manager Luther, I think you're going to probably go where I'm
Attempt
thinking.
to clarify
where I'm
this.
thinking, yeah, because I don't want to muddy the waters.
This is a complex issue because there was a recent change in state law that changes how local governments can consider conditional use permits. If they are to consider alcohol use, substantial evidence must be provided. It is staff position that that did not occur in regard to the conditional use or the use of the drive-through only. The city does maintain the authority to use much broader discretion in whether or not alcohol is sold, whether in the interior of the building or via a drive-through window, through the alcohol commission process and that approval process. Therefore, so as not to muddy the waters, the conditional use permit approval, the resolution, is recommended to be approved without that condition. The condition is unnecessary, and we don't believe that it is proper. The applicant has already agreed in his application for the Class A beer and Class A liquor license on item 6E of the agenda, which is a separate item on the agenda, that be referred to only the interior portion of the premises and not to the drive-through. So that is why the motion as amended or as clarified is on the floor, and the decision that the council is making in regard to the drive-through use has nothing to do with the alcohol issue. Is that clear? Okay.
Thank you. There is a motion and a second. All those in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes 7-0. Thank you. Item 5, public comments. We've reached a portion on the agenda where citizens may come forward and speak on items that's not on the agenda. Usually council will not. We will refer those to the appropriate department individuals we will not comment on those. If anyone would like to speak under public comments this evening, you can step forward. We do have individuals that completed a form. If you did not fill out a form, this is still your opportunity to come forward and speak. We do ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. I will not cut you off, but I will give you a friendly reminder that you're approaching the 3-minute mark. However, if there's any personal attack on council or staff or anyone else, I would ask you to sit down immediately. As long as we understand all that, we can move forward. And the first person, we have someone up there. I'm going to just make sure it's the right person. So your name and address?
Donald Parrish.
All right.
1600 Sun Valley Drive.
Thank you.
2 concerns.
Okay.
Now that I'm retired and my grandson is in 4K at Converse, I go over and pick him up in the afternoon and bring him back to my house. The crossing guard is for town line, but there is no crossing guard at Ritzer Street and Poff. I've noticed that people are parking in the no parking zone, no standing zone, and they're parking right on the corner, so they're blocking the crosswalk to get across that street. Since we're only a block away, I don't feel I should be driving my car over to pick them up unless it's inclement weather.
Okay.
So I'd like to have a study done about having some kind of crossing guard there, or see that gets left open so we can walk across that street. But I'll have to walk in between cars and worry about whether or not we're seeing something coming our way or not.
Okay, so with that one, I would like to, if I could, refer that to the chief. If you can get his name and address before you leave. So we'll refer that to Chief, and he'll work on that one for you.
I called on it last week, and they did have an officer come out for a couple of days. And it kind of stopped for a couple of days, and then, unless you're there,
Okay.
starts over.
All right, thank you.
Second item. I noticed that the AMBI business on Madison Road, they've been open dumping of their brush out in the back. Now, our neighborhood has had problems with skunks. I've trapped 2. My neighbor has trapped 2. One got killed in the intersection at Poff and Sun Valley, and yet I saw a 6th one trying to dig underneath my storage shed. But they're open dumping brush at that business. Do we not have 2 places to take that brush on a daily basis that doesn't have to be dumped there?
Okay. I just was looking to Ms. Christensen. I think she said they're already on it, so.
Have I? No. But, yeah, right. No, I've contacted you last year and twice this year about it.
Okay, so, okay. So I'm referring that one to Mrs. Christensen, so she'll talk to you and get your information. And if I could ask the chief and then also Julie to just kind of give us an email or something to where we are in this process of what we came up with, that would be greatly appreciated.
Mr. President, just as a point of clarification, the school district is responsible for the staffing and hiring of the crossing guards, so we're happy to coordinate with them, but that is not an item specifically that the city can address. While the chief may be able to address some of the traffic issues, we can also involve our traffic review committee potentially to do a study at that area. So we're happy to assist in looking at the situation and getting more data and coordinating with the school district. I just didn't want you to leave with the idea that those staffing decisions are the discretion of the city.
I talked to traffic review meeting people 2 years ago about Sun Valley and Cleora. There's yield signs that nobody's yielding at. And that's been 2 years and I haven't heard back.
Okay.
I'm still at the same house since 1998.
Okay. Well, right now, we referred them to 2 individuals, and we're asking for some feedback, so at least we can see if that there's progress being made. I will ask City Manager Luther if there's a contact at the school board, at the school district for the crossing guard piece. If we can contact somebody at the school district about the crossing guard piece, just to kind of put it out there that came forward at our meeting, and we just want to pass it on to them. Then kind of get back so we'll know that something is happening there. Anyone else wishing to speak under public comments this evening? Last call, anyone wishing to speak under public comments this evening? Seeing none, I would close that portion of the agenda and move to item 6, which is the consent agenda.
All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at this point on the agenda.
Is there any counselor who would like anything removed from the consent agenda? The consent agenda consists of items 6A through 6E. Anyone like anything removed? Seeing none, is there approval of the consent agenda? Motion by Jacobson. Is there a second? Second by Blakely. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. Item 7, licenses. 7A, please.
Consideration of a resolution for approval and denial of the 2017-19 applicants for an alcohol beverage operator's bartender license for this period of September 11th through the 25th, 2018. You have before you 7 recommendations for approval, 1 recommendation for denial. The time frame to appeal for the denial has passed.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Forback. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Preschel. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. Item 8, ordinances, please. 8A.
Consideration of ordinance number 3629 to amend certain sections of the Index of Special Locations, Section 1302 of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit, relating to the establishment of stop signs and turning movements at the Brannigan Road, Frontage Road intersection.
Ms. Williamson, please. I'm sorry.
Good evening. With the recent road improvements that have been occurring at Brannigan and the Milwaukee Road Avenue area, we have been able to take that offset intersection and actually now make it a 4-leg intersection, as we call it. And with that, both the TRC and staff is recommending that we would have the installation of the stop signs at that intersection.
Okay, is there a motion to approve? Motion by Jacobson. Is there a second? Second by Preschel. Any questions? I do have a question.
President Levy, this is first reading, so
First
it should be
reading.
to lay over.
So it's to lay it over to our next meeting. But I still got to have a question. We can come back to it. We've had discussion about an intersection out there, and when I was reading this, I didn't know if that was the intersection we were talking about where it's kind of weird, where if you're going straight this way, is this the intersection that, when I read it, I thought about it, I got kind of happy, and I think I even sent you an email thanking you tremendously about this, because what was happening out there is you had one lane going straight on one side of the street, and then on the other side of the street on the same angle, you had one that was turning. So people who were trying to go straight and people were turning, we were just looking for a potential accident. So we were working with DPW on this. So when I saw it, I was very pleased. I think there's going to be a lot of residents that's happy out there because they're saying now they can get in the right lane and go. So I want the residents to know that we do hear your concerns, and a lot of times things don't happen overnight. But we do stay on it, and I thank DPW staff, because I can honestly say I think they were tired of me coming in and emailing and saying, look, we got to do something about this. So we do address your issues, and sometimes it takes a while, but they do work on it. So I want to thank you and your staff for this. So this is a motion as a second to lay it over to our next meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. 8B, please.
Consideration of ordinance number 3630 to amend certain sections of the Index of Special Locations, Section 1302 of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit, relating to the removal of parking along Town Hall Road.
Ms. Benson.
Yes, this is again a first reading, and this is for removal of no parking along Town Hall Road, with the recent improvements out there. Again, with the curvature of the road and the uses along the roadway, staff is recommending, along with TRC committee, to have no parking.
Is there a motion to lay this over? Motion by Duncan. Is there a second? Second by Blakely. Questions or comments? I do have one question. This is our standard question. Was residents notified, the appropriate residents notified that this was going to take place?
It's predominantly located along businesses, but yes, the the Traffic Review Commission is notifying our residents in that area, yes.
Okay, so that will be done before we definitely move forward with the approval process. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of laying this over, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. Item 9 is appointments. I don't believe we have any this evening. Item 10, council activities and upcoming events. I'm going to ask you when I call your name to operate your mic. Our system is not working right now, so Councilor Jacobson.
No report.
Councilor Anderson.
This month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I feel like as part of my job, I have to explain what that is and also give you a couple numbers and hotlines just in case somebody needs them. So obviously domestic violence doesn't know a race, it doesn't know a background, it doesn't know anything specific. It could be affecting anybody. So if you know somebody or if you're suffering from a domestic violence situation, here's a couple numbers you can call. The first one is the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is 1-800-799-7233. The Beloit Domestic Violence Survivor Center, which also provides shelter for women that are victims of domestic violence. That is 608-365-1119. And then the YWCA, that's up in Janesville, but they provide shelter for women and children who are suffering from domestic violence as well. They have a 24-hour hotline, and they also have a text line, and the hotline number is 608-752-2583. And then the text line is 608-371-9288. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Blakely.
I was able to attend a recent luncheon called the Influential Women in Business Luncheon, co-sponsored by the Greater Beloit Chamber of Commerce and the State Line Chamber of Commerce. It was really an inspiring time. There were 250 people in attendance, including 10 men, and among the crowd attending were Beloit Public Works Director Laura Williamson and Director of Strategic Communications Sarah Millard, and our host of hosts, Lori Luther, City Manager, was there to introduce the special speakers. If I missed anybody else from the city mentioning your name, please forgive me. You can tell I'm nearsighted, especially tonight. Yes, tonight is bad. I was a guest of Jody Wittenabell, the co-founder and owner of the Castle Entertainment venue at 501 Prospect Avenue. So it was a great chance to meet leaders from throughout Wisconsin and the State Line area. On September 20th, earlier, I came here to the forum to attend the police department's promotion ceremony. There were opening remarks and welcomes given by our city manager and police chief, Zabalski, and then he was very proud, and it was a full house. It was a great evening to introduce the two officers receiving promotions. Sergeant David Elrod was promoted to the rank of Lieutenant of Patrol, and Patrol Officer John Amison was promoted to the rank of Sergeant of Patrol. So it was a proud moment for them and their families and for Beloit. I wanted to remind everybody of an upcoming event, which is tomorrow. It's the 31st Annual Beloit Senior Fair, taking place over at the Eclipse Center. And it runs from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I believe there are 70-some vendors who are going to be present. So it's very worthwhile. It'd be a great thing for the newspaper to cover, for instance, and for seniors or anyone who likes seniors to attend and receive a lot of information. Paula Shute, our new recreation coordinator, I believe is the person in charge of the event this year, which reminds me of her former post at Grinnell Hall Senior Center under the direction of the new center manager, Debbie Cross. They're located at 631 Bluff Street, and Grinnell Hall is a very busy building with lots of activities for seniors or near seniors. So if you or someone in your family is around my age or older, say, recommend that they stop by Grinnell Hall for a lot of entertaining things to do and a daily lunch served at budget prices. Thank you.
Councilor Forbeck.
No report.
Councilor Preschel.
Thanks for the lead in there, Sherry, because I'm going to talk about, I did another What the Tech last Monday at Grinnell Hall. We had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 people showed up, and normally we'll have anywhere between 8 and 13 people show up to answer a wide-ranging variety of tech questions. And it's a very interesting group that shows up, and I'd encourage anybody to show up. Free tech advice, free tech questions. Many heads are better than one, especially mine sometimes. It's not as good as it could be. But anyway, I've actually gone to my tech meetings saying, of course, bring your tech charged up, ready to go, know your passwords. And I've walked in and forgot to charge something. But anyway, that happens to the best of us. So anyway, I encourage everybody to come out to that. It's the last Monday of every month at 1 o'clock at the Grinnell Hall. And then following last Monday, I went and attended a Courageous Conversations event, which is the fourth Monday of every month at Merrill Community Center at 5:30. And it's Courageous Conversations. It's like a roundtable group of people talking about hard things to talk about. And it's a great use of the Merrill Community Center, and it's a challenging, interesting assortment of people from many walks of life. And it was Clinton Anderson encouraged me to go, I think Sherry too, and I started going, so because I'm available those nights. And I would encourage other people to check it out. It's the fourth Monday at 5:30 every month. You can sign up for a mailing list, find out what the subject is. There's a little homework ahead of time so you kind of familiarize yourself. Very cool thing. And then coming up here on the 13th is the Wine Walk, which is already sold out, so you can forget about going. Sorry, too late. But following the Wine Walk at 5 o'clock is a farewell reception for the Angel Museum, at the Angel Museum on Pleasant Street. So this will be a chance to send-off type of thing. There will be auctioning, so there will be some auctioning going on for the collection following the closure. The last official day of opening was this past Saturday. So on the 13th at 5, there will be this the last farewell reception to say goodbye and see what's going on there. So I encourage everybody. There's things in the works. We'll find out more as we get through the budget cycle here. The great things coming. So thanks a lot.
Vice President Duncan. Turn it off. You just turned it off.
Let's turn it off. I'm sorry. I'll learn how to work this. I just want to say that I had a wonderful opportunity to cut the ribbon at Culver's, and joining me was our city manager and also our city staff there. Culver's was promoting the Beloit Literacy Initiative. I just want to say thank you to Richard Franklin, to Beloit, Josh, and the whole gang, because literacy is so important in our community. We were also joined by Tara Tender and also Bill Flanagan, Rachel Elliott, and a host of people, Troy Knutson. Everybody came together, all for the literacy project, and so it certainly is a community effort, and I can't stress enough how important it is for everyone to read to our children, at least 15 minutes every night. If they can't read, they can't go to the grocery store, they can't play the video games that they love to get on, but it is so key. I can't express that enough. I know I've been reading to my little 5-month-old twins now, so it starts at a very early age, and all I want to say is let's continue to do that. It's a community effort, and we all have to join in to make a difference and to really make an impact. So let's get started reading. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Item 11, City Manager's presentation. 11A, please.
We have a presentation of the draft 2018-2020 strategic plan.
City Manager Luther.
Thank you. The 2018 to 2020 draft strategic plan is designed to advance the momentum that we've created in the 2016 to 2018 plan. We are headed in the same direction with greater emphasis on specific initiatives and outcome measurements to help us better monitor our progress. So with that, we have a presentation. This is far too lengthy for me to read through. We have it in its entirety on our website. I thought it would be the best use of time to highlight some of the new initiatives or significant changes to the plan as it is proposed. We're going to begin, as all good strategic plans do, with our mission and values. And the mission of the City of Beloit continues to be to provide outstanding public service, period. That is why we exist. That is why we come to work every day. That is our purpose for existing. Our core organizational values remain the same: safety, ethical behavior, leadership at all levels, again, the emphasis on public service, inclusion of diverse people and ideas, and teamwork to creatively solve problems. An important thing to note, however, is that the new strategic plan defines diversity that is referenced in our values, and it does so in the most inclusive fashion possible. It is including but not limited to an understanding that each individual is unique and recognizes individual differences. It is a representation of fairness and protection to all, regardless of age, gender or gender identification, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, national status, origin, veteran status, socioeconomic status, political beliefs, or disability. We also recognize and encourage cognitive diversity, including the blending of different backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives within teams, including a variety of levels and tenure within the organization. We made every effort to capture diversity in the broadest sense possible, and if anyone has any feedback that can help us broaden that definition even further, we're always welcome and open to those ideas. So the goal areas themselves remain the same. Again, we are headed in the same direction, but we are providing additional depth and breadth to the strategic plan to help us achieve these goals. In regard to initiatives under the objective of creating safe and healthy neighborhoods, we have added four specific key initiatives. One is to create a vacant and abandoned properties cross-departmental task force that will help us tackle in new and creative ways the issues that vacant and abandoned properties can create for neighborhoods and communities at large. We are also proud to be announcing our partnership with Axe Housing to promote home ownership throughout the entire city, but also in particular in our most challenged neighborhoods. We have an initiative to improve neighborhood security by reducing dark spots with enhanced lighting. And we have a key infrastructure-related component that is to provide safe drinking water, replacing lead services, and to reduce system-wide water losses. So those are key additions to the 2018 to 2020 proposed plan. Again, this is our first public presentation of this draft plan. It will be coming back to the City Council for consideration on October 15th, and any public comments or suggestions would be welcome certainly at this time or prior to adoption on the 15th.
Thank you.
I have much more of the presentation to go through, so we're going to bring that back. Thanks. Okay. The next goal is to create and sustain a high-performing organization. Got a little excited there. All right.
I was confused.
Yeah, we weren't done yet.
Yeah,
Sorry,
okay.
Kevin. I know you're a tiny bit disappointed.
I said thank you.
You were there for the all-day session.
I saw us up there on the thing. I was just
okay. Viewers at home, rest assured, we've got more content. I know you're very eager to hear more. All right. Very good. The objectives within our goal of high-performing organization are really consistent in this draft plan. Again, we have a new initiative, and we also have new performance indicators. We're really trying to become more sophisticated at measuring whether what we're doing is moving the needle, having an impact, and actually creating a different result than what we were doing before. And if we can demonstrate success, then we know that is something we need to continue. It is also helpful, though, to learn. If something we are trying is not moving the needle, then perhaps we need to reassess and try something new. So I think it is all useful data and information to receive. I'm going to go back one slide. Okay. So two specific items as initiatives under high-performing organization are to increase the cultural competence of the city's workforce to reflect our diverse population, and also to develop and implement a hiring plan for the city. Additional and new performance indicators are largely related to some of our public works activities. We have a reduction in time to complete our snow and ice operation by removal of parked cars through awareness and code enforcement. Also, to develop comprehensive plan of the obsolete and underutilized assets and proper future disposition with resident input for repurposing, retiring, or reinvestment. And that can be applied to land or other assets. We have a goal of having 90% of our annual CIP projects being complete within budget and on time. And there's a reason why they're not always complete, I asked, and dug into that a little bit. And with timing issues and multi-year projects, they are not always going to be completed within an annual basis. But this gives us a tracking mechanism to look at the timeliness of those projects that have some of our most significant public investment. And then again, we've reiterated this in several ways, but we wanted to place the performance indicator under high-performing organization of increasing our overall workforce diversity. And we'd previously addressed it in particularly our police and fire departments, but it is a goal throughout our entire organization. The third goal, to create and sustain economic and residential growth, remains fairly consistent. This is an area where the city has excelled significantly over time. We are looking at how can we continue to do well and continue to promote both growth within our existing businesses and in attracting new. Some new initiatives are to collaborate with employers to identify public transportation needs of their employees and to aid business retention and growth. We also are looking to measure work trip usage of the public transit system by Beloit businesses' employees. So those are areas we'll be focused on over the course of the next 2 years. The goal of a high quality of life. We have reworded a bit one of the objectives as an opportunity to provide access to diverse recreational activities for health, well-being, entertainment, and character development. And that is for individuals of all ages. Several new initiatives in this area, you will notice, are to maintain passable arterial roadways and complete snow and ice operations within a particular time frame. We do have a workshop coming up on our snow and ice operations, and that will be held in the coming weeks. Develop surveys for recreation program participants to obtain feedback on customer satisfaction, to adopt the POROS plan, to leverage partnerships with other organizations to strengthen the delivery of community recreation services. And I think that's incredibly essential. We see some very creative things happening with the school district and with other entities, the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, et cetera. Those are all win-win situations and scenarios for our community. We will continue to support and participate in the Literacy for Life initiative, and the Turtle Creek Park revitalization effort is underway. So those are new initiatives in the formal plan. And we have a number of different performance indicators. That's where we get the time to clear our main streets. That's where we get the percentage of recreation program participants that are satisfied with the program offerings and outcomes. Increasing our participation rates and increasing them through the use of public transportation specifically. We have the increase in linear footage of multimodal trails. We just had a ribbon cutting this last week of a new trail segment that was done in a very creative and economical fashion at Big Hill Park. Continuing the partnership with Welty Environmental Adventure Camp and increasing participation there as well. And specifically on the Literacy for Life, City Hall, with the ingenuity of our planning department, we are providing books for City Hall visitors, children, and those are being donated by any number of staff from City Hall. So those are specific measurements where we can see how tangible those efforts are. High quality infrastructure. This is a key area. We have in your handouts this evening, there's a slight variation to the packet that was initially in the packet. So any of the viewers out there, just so you are aware, there's an updated version online. This includes our key objectives under our infrastructure and connectivity. That includes things like fiber optics that we may not always think about in regards to infrastructure. New initiatives in this area include the reduction of our total deferred capital repair and replacement needs and the evaluation of a future new police department and city hall. I know that this has been on the docket for the City Council for many, many, many years, certainly for the police department. We don't have a solution yet, but we recognize that the need is still there, and we can look creatively at ways to at least anticipate what those needs may be and look at potential opportunities. Performance indicators include, for those viewers out there, there was just giant thunder, so yes. We had to have a bit of a pause to listen to the giant thunder from the storm that is happening outside right now. Okay, moving right along. Implementing a work order tracking system for management of infrastructure projects. Reduction in phosphorus, participation potentially in a phosphorus banking program, and increasing transit ridership to maintain the current city subsidy and leverage additional state, federal, or other dollars. We also have utilization of the Career Tech Partnership to reduce deferred maintenance needs. And we saw from a recent council presentation how positive those partnerships can be both for the city and for the students who are involved. All right, the last goal area that was established in 2016 continues to be to create a positive image, enhance communications, and engage the community. This section of the strategic plan has been completely rewritten. It is brand new, and that is available again on our website, and we have hard copies in the forum for anyone who is interested. All of this content was draft form created by our new communications director and presented to the council for your consideration. There was a give and take and some conversation at our workshop to discuss the strategic plan. But I want to tell you how effective our efforts can be in this area just based solely on our year-to-year comparison over the past 2 quarters. I can tell you that in looking at the city's website, we have 31% more fans year-to-date over last year. The 2018 projected growth is 41%, but engagements, likes, comments, shares, and clicks from our social media is up 268%. Our total reach, just through quarters 1 to 3 from 2017 to 2018, is up 130%. So having a skilled individual who is helping shepherd this process is incredibly critical to us. But in summary, we have 6 strategic goals. We have an increased, lengthier list of initiatives and performance indicators. There are a handful of items that were one-and-done success stories completions from the prior draft, some in progress and some brand new items. So again, the presentation this evening was intended to be for public consumption, and we will have the strategic plan brought back on October 15th for council consideration.
Thank you. Any questions? I just have a couple, if that's okay. You spoke about the hiring plan or developing a hiring plan. Do we know if that's in the works, or where are we at, the hiring plan for the city? So, as you may be aware, we've had a vacancy in our Director of Human Resources department. We have a new Human Resources Manager who just started today. Okay. So I cannot provide a guarantee on that being completed by the end of the year, okay, but it will certainly be completed within the strategic planning period. Yeah, I mean, and that's fine. I just wanted to make sure. I know because we had spoke about it before, so I just wanted to make sure that we keep it on the table. And also, with hiring a workforce that's reflective of our population. So I want to make sure that we continue to do that because we made that one of our top priorities as well. So I know we're working on that and doing that, but I just want to make sure that when we can and we talk about hiring practices that we continue to put that out there so the public know that we have not forgotten about it and it's something that the city continues to work on. And I know within our last couple hires for some administrative positions that we didn't have a lot of diverse population of people applying. So it's not that the city is not trying. Sometimes it's that we're not having individuals apply, and we're doing recruitments in every place that we can think of. So
indeed, and if I may, it's equally important that we increase that cultural competence of our workforce so that we are creating a workforce that is welcoming to all individuals of varying backgrounds. As you heard earlier, that we define diversity very broadly. We want everyone to feel welcome here, and that culture will go a long way to helping us retain and to attract a more diverse workforce. I would like to point out that since April of this year, the fire department did host an all-day conference that was held at the Eclipse Center. It was presented by the CEO and founder of the Firefighter Diversity Recruitment Council, and a number of individuals, both from city staff and from neighboring organizations, attended that training. The police department staff had previously participated in implicit bias and 21st century community policing training, where all of their officers were trained. And the council and department heads also held some training on implicit bias. And while training alone will not get us there, and that will not achieve the goal, we are making strides to envelop the value of inclusion throughout our organization. And that is coupled with some historic numbers of women and minorities being hired and promoted. So lots of work ahead, but a good foundation to focus on.
Right, and then we also talked about transportation as we talk about in the gateway and businesses going out there. We had discussion about individuals who may not have vehicles, getting bus transportation out there, but we know the ridership is not where we need it to be. So I want people to know that we've also talked about that because we hear that too. Individuals are saying, well, you're putting businesses out in the gateway, but if I get a job out there, I don't necessarily have a way to get there. So there's a lot of things in place as it relates to transportation, but we did address that as well. And then one of the huge ones that we discussed about and kind of chuckled about it as well, but it was something huge, and we don't know the answer to it. So probably 5 or 10 years down the road, we're talking about the snow in the middle of the street downtown. So we did mention that. Several councils like, well, what can we do with the snow? Because as you know, in the wintertime, it's lined up in the middle downtown, and it kind of makes it hard. So the director knows about it, city manager knows about it. They're talking about where can we put all this snow. So I do want the citizens to know that we understand that. We live it as well, and we did bring it up, and right now it's not something that we can fix overnight, but it is on the docket to be looked at and seeing what could be done. But that's a lot of snow to put someplace, but we know the safety aspect of it, but we just want to make sure that we're looking at things like that as well as we talk about safety. So any other comments from council? Seeing none, thank you, City Manager, for that. Now we move to 11B, please.
We have the presentation of the proposed 2019 operating, library, and capital improvement budgets.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you. Good evening. So the budget is a nice transition from the prior presentation from the city manager with the strategic plan, as the budget is one of the primary goals or tools that is used to help progress along the strategic plan and help us achieve those goals. So it is a very nice transition from one to the next, which is typically why we do those in conjunction with each other, as a matter of fact. So with that being said, we did begin this process roughly 6 months ago when we began the capital improvement plan. And since that time, we have met with every department and division head in the city, and we looked at every single capital project request form that was submitted, as well as went through every line item in all the proposed budget in detail. And I'm happy at this point to present to you with a balanced proposed 2019 capital plan and operating plan. So with that being said, the high level to start out, just a few bullet points, is the overall increase, or in this case decrease, of the total budget of all funds, which was about a $9.5 million decrease, or a 9%, from the 2018 budget. We'll get into a little bit more detail in a few slides, but the big decrease there was done primarily from the capital improvement budget. The general fund budget is around $32 million, which is about $920,000 more than the 2018 plan, which is roughly a 3% increase. The enterprise fund budgets in aggregate also increased by about $940,000, up to $19 million. So here is just a summary chart showing all of the funds in aggregate. You can see the different increases and decreases there from the 2018 budget that was adopted last November. Some of the bigger changes there are in the special revenue funds, which is made up of our TIF districts, our library fund, some of our grant funding, and our solid waste funds. So the decrease there is primarily our TIF district increment. We did have a TIF district that closed, TID number 5, which is our downtown TID, and that was roughly about 1.1 or $1.2 million of that difference. So the other difference there was some of the other increment, just in some of the increment values as they decreased a little bit. You can see there the capital improvement budget, the big decrease there, $10.3 million. As you know, as we approved the capital plan in 2018, it included several projects for the utility funds that we did special revenue bonds for. And so those, of course, are one-year projects, and those did come off then in the 2019 plan. So that was primarily the difference there between last year and this year, which showed the $9.5 million decrease in the overall plan. So each year, as part of the budget process, we do take a look at all of our fees that we charge. We want to make sure that those fees are somewhat reflective of the cost that it takes to provide those services. So we do take a look at that each year. And there were some increases, some decreases that we'll bring back in our fee schedule in November. So one of the things that is hard to control is what the state legislature does. And in this case, we had AB, which is the Assembly Bill 771 that got passed, which significantly impacted the rental inspection program. And that created basically a $244,000 reduction in the revenue that had just been redone last year as a result of another bill that was passed by the state legislature. So unfortunately, we didn't even have an opportunity to get that program really off the ground. So we did see a reduction in our revenues of about $244,000. However, we were able to offset some of that with a $35,000 increase in the potential for some residential rental registrations. The problem is we just don't really know exactly what that program is going to do in 2019, so it's up in the air right now on what that revenue will do. But our community development department is monitoring that very closely and have been working on a plan to get that up and running. So stay tuned for that. One of the other highlights is in the police department, we went through a reorganization in 2017, and we're still kind of working through all of that reorg now. And one of the positions that was not filled was the deputy chief position. That position has been turned into an inspector position. And so we are proposing to fill the inspector position in the fourth quarter of 2019. That gives us just some time to kind of check the budget, make sure we still have the funding available, get the right person and recruitment and that whole deal to try to get that position filled. So that's kind of one of the final pieces or steps in that reorg. Since then, we've added all of the lieutenant positions, and then that will be the final piece of that reorg. A couple other changes that occurred in the police department in terms of staffing was that we are going to fill a community service position with 2 part-time community service officer positions, if we haven't already. I don't know if those have been filled or not. I don't think so. And then we will have, we did replace 1 full-time evidence custodian with 2 part-time evidence custodians. And then the final piece was the administrative 2 position, which used to be a part-time position, is now a full-time position, and that was filled just within the last month or 2, I believe. So the Department of Public Works is also going through a restructuring currently, and some of that restructuring resulted in there being a vacant equipment operator position that is being replaced with a DPW administrative supervisor position. There was also a vacant part-time parks administrative assistant that will not be filled. That will help use to fund the admin supervisor position. The restructuring also created a forestry org. That's a way that we track costs throughout the city in their separate orgs, so that we can see the effectiveness of those operations. We removed that from the streets org and put that in its own, and in the meantime then also moved 5 full-time equipment operators from streets over to forestry. There was a vacant parks and cemetery supervisor that was replaced with a citywide facilities position that was designed to help coordinate all of the maintenance and facility maintenance of all of our facilities in the city, which ties directly back to one of our strategic goals of maintaining infrastructure. The 2019 budget also includes a 2% cost of living adjustment and an increase in the employee health premium contribution from 5% to 7.5%.
I would just interject that the 3 union contracts with the police officers, firefighters, and transit union all included those 2% wage increases and the 7.5% increase to health insurance premiums in 2019. So we have maintained our commitment to a across-the-board implementation of those changes, and I'm proud of the fact that we've been able to do that.
Okay, the shared revenue and expenditure restraint are 2 of our main intergovernmental aids that come from the state. Those have been flat for well over a decade now, and I really don't see that formula for the shared revenue changing anytime soon. However, we did see and are projecting to see a slight increase in the transportation aids of roughly about $65,000, so that's a positive sign. So one of the things that came out of the state budget last year was the phase out, or the beginning phase out, of the personal property tax. And so one of the categories of personal property tax that was phased out was the machinery and tools and patterns. And so that eliminated basically some assessed values from the city. So in an effort to make the municipalities whole, the state decided that they would reimburse the cities for their portion of lost revenue. So that did create a $181,000 additional state aid payment for 2019. It's very generous that they did that, and I'm very grateful that they did that. However, it's a very dangerous pattern to get into, as any revenue source that is controlled by the state, as that we become more and more dependent on that, and they need to balance their budget. It's more discretion from the state side that they could very easily take that away, and we'd basically then be eliminating dollars from our from our budget because they eliminated the assessed value of personal property tax. So hopefully they keep their word and we continue to get that payment. But that's what we're projecting in 2019. The net new construction came in 0.25% higher than 2018 at 1.1%. We were able to achieve some additional levy capacity through the closure of TID number 5. So I did speak to that a little bit earlier. That's one of the things about TIF districts. You get the economic development piece to it. When that closes, the state allows you to recapture 50% of that as levy growth, and the other 50% goes for tax relief. And we'll see how that affected our tax rate a little bit later in the presentation.
Eric, just to point
Yes.
out, TID 5 was the ABC Supply Riverside.
No, the TID 5 was the downtown TID.
Downtown TID.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's a year delay. I forgot.
Yep.
Okay.
TID 6, we just closed TID 6 also.
That'll show up next year.
That'll be next year's into 2020 budget, yep.
I always forget about that process.
Yep.
Takes like 2 years.
It's a good lag, yeah, it's a good delay there. The assessed and equalized values both did increase. Assessed values increased by 0.97% and the equalized values increased by about 2.7%. Most of that was in the manufacturing category. The local portion of the levy increased by about $600,000 or 4%. We are still under the state-imposed levy limits. However, the debt service piece of the levy is not subject to the levy limit, and $400,000 of that $600,000 was for debt service. The way that we structured our debt as TIF districts close and we are able to capture some more of the revenue. Some of those debt issuances were being funded through the TIF district, so we timed it in a way so that more of it came onto the levy as we closed the TIF district. So interest rates finally began to increase a little bit over the last 18 months, and we were able to budget additional interest income in the general fund, so we're close to $200,000 increase. So that's a positive sign. The offset to that, of course, is when we borrow money, we have to pay more money for interest, so it's kind of a wash, but we'll take it. The wastewater utility and the water utility are both looking to increase their fees by about 3% next year. The water utility will be done through what we call a simplified rate case, which is allowed through the PSC, where you don't have to go and do a full rate study. So by the time we get that timing done, it will be effective most likely in the second half of 2019. And then the goal, of course, as we laid out when we first came to you last year, when we did the last full rate case, we'll do another full rate case, hopefully to be implemented in early 2020. That, of course, again, ties into one of our strategic goals of creating nice, solid infrastructure. We need those increases in order to maintain not only roads and streets, but we need to make sure that we maintain and update all of our water and wastewater utility infrastructure as well. As I mentioned earlier on the fee schedule, this is the last one there, is we do analyze all the fees every year, and some go up, some go down. Okay, before I get into some of the detail on the general fund, are there any questions at this point that you would like answered? No? All right. Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Okay, so the general fund. So this is a slide that shows all of the different revenue sources that makes up the $900,000 increase in the general fund. You can see the change column there. Some of the major increases are, of course, the tax levy, which not only is the levy, but also includes some hotel motel taxes in there, as well as some of our wheel tax dollars. Some of the more significant ones there, of course, are the intergovernmental aids that increased. Again, we just talked about the personal property aid. The new aid is in that $300,000 number. The transportation aid is also in there, as well as some computer exemption aid. So that's what's making up the increase there. We also just talked about the interest income, which is making up the majority of our investments and property income. We have some projected sale of property in there as well that's increasing that a little bit. And then, of course, we have the miscellaneous revenues that is just several smaller accounts added up together to make up the difference there. So those are our primary increases in the revenue. So we always show a little graphical representation of that revenue as well. It kind of gives you a nice picture of where we are in reliance on that state income that I talked about a little bit ago. We do rely very heavily on that shared revenue, and that makes up about 60% of our overall budget. 30% of the budgeted revenues come from the taxes, which again is the property tax and other types of taxes. So we are very reliant on that shared revenue, so we do hope that we don't see a lot of increase in those, but we just hope that we don't see a lot of decreases in those. So here are the expenditures for the general fund by department. This is very high level, so many of the changes that you see there are related to the increase in the insurance premiums that we implemented both this year and proposed for 2019. That also does include some of the wage increases like we talked about, the 2%. In the finance and admin, that houses a couple of other different orgs as well, including some of the general liability insurance that we carry at the city, which did have some premium increases there, as well as our contingency fund and the PEG access channel. So that's what's making up some of the differences there. The police department and the fire department both had increases. Those are primarily due to retiree health insurance. About $200,000 in each of those is the retiree health insurance. That makes up the majority of both. We did have a slight increase in the fire department in their overtime budget. And then a little bit of the police department, of course, is the new police inspector position. All others are pretty minor changes. So again, here's the graph of the expenditures. You can see that we have just over 60% of our budget comprised of police and fire, and the other roughly 20% is public works. This is pretty common around the state of Wisconsin. These are pretty common percentages, so these aren't out of the norm at all. Any questions on general fund before we hit the other funds? Yes.
I wondered if you could back up to revenues. Yep. I know you mentioned it aloud, but I was making notes and not sure I got my note in the right place. Where does transportation come in?
Transportation aids?
Yes.
That comes in the intergovernmental aid and grants line.
Oh, okay. Okay,
so
thank you.
That's included in there.
Got it, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Okay, great. So special revenue funds, we talked a little bit about this on the summary slide. Our TIF districts, grants, the library and solid waste recycling funds. We talked about the $1.1 million decrease of increment from TID number 5, which is making up mostly the difference there. We did have the property valuation that was appealed for one of the properties out in the Gateway last year, if you recall. And that did create a pretty significant decrease in the increment for TIF district number 10. That's a big number, but that does not hinder in any way the existing debt service that is owed on that TIF district. So it's it's still positively cash flowing, so there's no issue there. The library is one of our other special revenue funds, and there was a decrease in the library's budget from 2018 to 2019. primarily due to salary and benefits. That does include the Blender Cafe as well, so that is mixed in there. So we had 2018 was kind of a year where we weren't real sure exactly what was, what we were going to do from a revenue and expenditure standpoint. So we kind of fine-tuned that a little bit there in 2019, which is why you're seeing some of the reductions to a more realistic budget for the Blender. Enterprise funds. So enterprise funds are designed to be completely self-sufficient. You're supposed to be able to charge a fee in order to accommodate all the expenses that run through the funds. They're treated more like a business as opposed to a governmental type fund. That's why we have the increases in the fees for the wastewater and the water utility. The enterprise funds also consists of the golf course, cemetery, transit, and ambulance funds, as well as stormwater. So some of the big changes here, of course, are the 3% increases that we already talked about. And then we are needing those for the critical infrastructure to maintain that so that it can still provide safe, clean drinking water. And then there were some small fees that were changed in both the cemetery and the golf course. I think the golf course and transit are the only two of our existing enterprise funds that receive a direct tax subsidy. Internal service funds, these are funds that are supported by charges to other funds throughout the budget for services that they receive. Some of those include our health and dental insurance, our fleet maintenance, and our mutual insurance funds. The health and dental fund is what I talked a little bit about already with the increase in the health premiums. We increased those premiums by 10% as an effort to help reduce the significant negative fund balance that's in that fund right now. And then in order to offset some of those expenditures from the other funds, we did increase the employee premium up to 7.5% from 5%.
Going to interject that in addition, we are shopping, actually we have just recently in the process of selecting and finalizing contract negotiations for our third-party administrator. We are looking at our network. We are looking at other changes that can be made to help reduce our costs in this area. So certainly the employee contributions are significant, but we have a pretty sizable hole to fill and taking multiple strategies to try and attack that particular problem.
Councilor Forbeck.
I have a question about what is our deficit for transit? Does that show someplace particular here, Eric?
No, there is no deficit per se for transit.
So what is our subsidy then?
We subsidize through a direct tax subsidy of $560,000.
Okay.
And there'll be a slide later on in the presentation that you can see where that is directly broken out.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So the last thing on the internal service funds is the liability insurance fund was reduced by approximately $170,000 due to a reduction in our workers' comp rates, which was excellent news. Debt service fund, you can see that the change was very minimal. It just depends on the funding source of how that debt is being paid. That's why we have the $400,000 increase in the tax levy. And as I mentioned earlier, debt service is exempt from state imposed levy limits. So when we do borrow general obligation dollars, we have a commitment to make that payment to our bondholders, and we are allowed to add that to the tax levy regardless of the levy limit. Capital funds, this is our big mover of the year, reduction of $10.3 million total. The capital improvement funds are more than just the capital improvement plan. It also includes our CIP engineering, as well as our equipment replacement funds and any computer equipment replacement funds. So the capital improvement plan decreased by $9.9 million due mostly to the utility revenue bonds like I spoke about earlier. Of the $9.2 million capital plan for 2019, we are anticipating a GO bond issue of $5.5 million. And then we have other funding sources that make up the difference in order to fund those capital programs, which include special assessment, fund balance. We have a significant amount of state or federal funding there, about $3 million. And then, of course, we have some potential for some private partnerships as well as donations. Any questions before I get to the tax levy?
What time of year do we do the GO bond? Is that the spring? Like
Usually.
June?
Yeah, usually.
April, May? Okay.
Yeah. Sometime in the spring.
Okay.
Depends on when we have a good feeling on where rates are going to be. We'll try
I was
to
gonna say, it's rate
speed that up.
too, a little bit,
Yeah.
isn't it? Right.
Yep. We'll try and time it best we can. Okay, proposed municipal tax levy. This is where you can see where the transit is broken out. $560,000 is a direct subsidy to the transit. And then the increase to the general fund tax levy was about 3%. There's our $400,000 increase in the debt service levy for a total of $600,000. The tax rate actually decreased by 0.175 cents per thousand of assessed value. So you might ask, why did it go down, right? I mean, if we're increasing our tax levy, well, it's because...
Why did it go down?
Why did it go down? Thank you for asking. So part of the reason why it went down is because our assessed values went up. So the other reason is because when we have a TIF district close, we no longer need to levy for that increment, and so it automatically reduces the amount that we have to levy for. So our local portion of the tax levy increased by $600,000, but the overall tax levy ended up coming down by 0.175 per thousand. So that's how the TIF districts work. So as we see that going forward, next year we'll be right back here again, hopefully with another decrease in our overall tax rate due to the TID number 6 closing. So, and there you can see it more on a graph. If you think about over the last 4 years, even from 10.83 to 11.22, that's only about a 3.7% overall increase over the last 4 years, which is very modest at best when we talk about increases in tax rates. So, we do the best we can to maintain a nice, fair tax rate and still provide all the appropriate services for the residents. So, pretty positive sign there. The final chart here is just a little graph showing where we have been and where we are with the assessed and equalized values. They've been fairly stable over the last few years, but what trend there is a positive trend. And so we would see actually a little bit more assessed values here, but if you remember, we talked about that personal property exemption. That took about $18 to $19 million off of our assessed values. So, we would be showing a little bit higher trending there from an assessed value standpoint. So it's positive to know that when we have taken away a part of our property, we still showed an increase in our values. So it's very positive.
So basically, in a comparison from what we're seeing this year, 2018 year to years past, we've changed a little bit on that formula. So it's
correct.
We're not actually comparing the same sums as we were in prior years.
Exactly.
And again, going back to, I know you're probably going to make this remark in your conclusions here, but I'll make it now ahead of that.
Okay.
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't in this levy assessment game with the state and the shared revenue and the formulas they provide you. So I'll just leave it there. And I know you're going to say it better.
Fair enough. Well, that's all I have. So the next steps in the budget are the council workshop next Monday, beginning at 10 o'clock in the Beloit Public Library. We'll go from 10 o'clock. We were somewhere around 3 or 3:30 or so last year, but there's no end time. We'll get done when we get done. And then we'll be right back here 2 weeks from tonight for the public hearing. That's when we'll also be presenting again the strategic plan. And then if there's any workshops needed after that, we certainly have time. It's a 5-Monday month, so we have an extra week in there. So we'll be back here 5 weeks from tonight for council consideration to adopt the budget. Any questions?
Councilor Jacobson.
Thank you. It's so weird not having you turn it on for us. Thank you, Eric and staff, for bringing us a proposed balanced budget that makes our job, obviously a lot easier. And also, it's nice to, for the first time since I've been back, which is over a decade, we can say we're bringing in more money with the levy and reducing the rates. So that's pretty incredible for us to say. I know this is a sort of budgets aren't exciting to talk about. No offense, Eric.
No offense
you did a great
taken.
job
Thank you.
making it, but this is sort of a really big deal
Yeah.
for our taxpayers. And I know that we've seen the market moving, but we just haven't. This is kind of the first time we get to see it on paper, and so I'm really excited to see that. And I know even for staff, it makes it just breathe a little bit easier. No one's jobs are in danger, and so congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I just have one. Thank you, Eric. You did a wonderful job tonight. But I just have a question as far as that, the proposed council workshop.
Yes.
Just wanting to know, do we have that listed on our website and our Facebook for the residents?
The PowerPoint is on the website, so I know that's not a great answer for you, but it's in the PowerPoint. That's about all I got for you on that one.
Austin got it now.
Good. I just wanted to make sure that the citizens and residents are informed. Okay.
Oh, there you go. Great.
Yes, those are all public meetings, and so those are additional opportunities to get more information about the budget. This evening was a very high overview, general overview of the entire budget, and it's so we'll get into more detail on Monday at the workshop, and then opportunity to respond to questions and have additional workshops if necessary after the public hearing.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay.
Mark.
I meant to mention this in my council remarks, but it's a good time now, is that, between now and next Monday's workshop, this is an opportunity for the citizens that have had a chance to review this material and have questions and stuff to contact us and contact staff, department heads, et cetera. So between now and next Monday, when we have this workshop, get your input and get your remarks and your questions either answered or, in the queue for we get discussion. That's the proper time to do it during those workshops. So I'd encourage everybody to get that information out there and let them know I will be. So that's just me, though.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Item 12.
12A is a consideration of Resolution 2018-165 authorizing the city manager to acquire tax delinquent properties for the Rock County Treasurer.
Ms. Christensen.
So what is included in your packet is Attachment A, which outlines all the properties that Rock County either has purchased or will purchase because they delayed taking action on some till November 14th. The top part shows between the blues what we're recommending for purchase. What we're proposing to do, and then in addition, 1262 Dewey is on here, which is a vacant lot that Rock County foreclosed on in 2014. So we're recommending the purchase of all of the houses except those that have federal or state tax liens. And we are not recommending purchase of most of the vacant lots. The vacant lots that are being recommended for purchase are 1973 and 1987 Milwaukee Road, which are adjacent to our Turtle Creek floodplain. Basically, they're immediately adjacent to the parking lot. 1262 Dewey is located next to 1256 Dewey, which we own. And so we had discussed at an earlier workshop about doing a new construction house at that location. So we've included that as well. And then Attachment B includes a brief description of the properties, some photos, and for the vacant lots that we're purchasing, we showed their general location. And then we will be, once the houses are purchased, whatever you approve tonight, we will meet with X Housing to talk about where we go from there in terms of what houses they're interested in, what houses we will retain for our own rehabbing needs, and then we'll kind of move forward on that item, which is in your strategic plan, but we're going to kind of keep moving forward. We have a conference call with them this week. So this is on your agenda for action this evening.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Preschel, second by Duncan. Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. 12B, please.
The City Council may convene in closed sessions in the City Manager's Conference Room on the 4th floor of City Hall pursuant to WISDAS 1985 sub 1C to consider the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of a public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. The council will not reconvene into open session.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Preschel. Is there a second? Second by Blakely. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. See you all upstairs.